Hi guys and welcome to my review of the Toshiba Satellite P70-B-10T. It is a 17-inch high-performance laptop and pretty much the best example that first looks can be deceiving. If you want to know more about that, let's continue with the full review. So, let's damn it! As always, ports first. Here we have the Kensington lock key, port for the charging, 2 USB 3.0, the DVD-ROM drive. On the front we can see the full-size SD card reader, which is nice because the whole SD card sinks into it, headphone jack, microphone jack, 2 USB 3.0, one of them with PowerShare, full-size HDMI, gigabit Ethernet, VGA and the output for the ventilation, and on the back we can see the user replaceable battery. As for the ports, I am very pleased with the high amount of ports and with the logic placement, so all is fine here. As for the design, when I said deceiving, I pretty much meant only this, because the lid of the device is bending quite a lot and makes it feel cheap, and I thought this would be the whole thing for the device, but actually once you take a closer look here you will notice this is all built very solid, and also the keyboard part of this laptop is built very solid. As we can see here, there is not really any flex, and the only thing you will see wobbling right now is actually my camera, but I am absolutely pleased because it is actually built very well. It is only the lid that is a little bit cheaper. But that's pretty much the only thing, and not really that important because it's a 17-inch laptop and you won't really carry it around with you that much. Let's take a closer look at the keyboard now. I am very pleased with it in overall. The first thing though I thought, and again it's about the receiving part, it is kind of glossy and it felt a little bit slippery. But once I used it a little bit longer, I actually noticed how well the feedback of it actually is, and the nice amount of key travel. You get a really nice tactile feedback, and typing, especially fast typing, was actually way easier and way better than I actually thought to be, because the typing experience itself actually was really great. As for the touchpad, I have to say this is one of the better touchpads I've used so far, because the surface itself isn't slippery but also not sticky. This is something I really appreciate a lot. But that's not all, because it is very precise. I had no problem recognizing anything, but the best thing here is the software we get on this device, because we have 2-finger gestures as we usually get, but we also have 3-finger and 4-finger gestures, all very customizable within the software. This is a nice bonus and something that really makes a big difference, because you can actually even switch your apps with this, and this is something I usually only know from macOS, so a big bonus. So once again, overall, the build quality is nice, except of this a little bit flimsy top, but otherwise the device is very solid. All the ports are there, they're all very logically placed. The keyboard, once you get past this a little bit slippery feel, is actually really great to type on, and the touchpad itself is actually one of the better ones I've used so far. On the display side here we have a 70.3-inch TN display with a resolution of 1920 by 1080 and an aspect ratio of 16 by 9. As for the minimum and maximum brightness, the minimum brightness I think is okay, absolutely no problems with, and the maximum brightness is quite nice. It isn't maybe bright enough for outside and also with the glare, but don't worry about that because it is a 70.3 inch and I highly doubt you will use that outside. So I'm totally fine with the brightness and with the glare as well, because I actually prefer a glare display because it just has a better contrast ratio and also text and everything appears more vivid and sharp, so I'm totally fine with this. As for the whites, they are a little bit on the colder side, even though on the camera it looks more cold than it is still a very pleasant one. I also actually prefer a colder white as well. As for the blacks, quite deep, don't lose any details, so everything is fine here as well. As for the colors, maybe not super punchy, but if you want more saturation you can easily adjust that in the settings. I would say though they are quite nice, vivid, nicely balanced and accurate. All is good here. And the only thing on this display you have to get used to a little bit is it not being an IPS display, because you can see here we don't have the best viewing angles. This is something you have to get past, but I also noticed that there aren't a lot 70.3 inches with an IPS display available, so once you get past the fact that this is just a TN panel, it is quite a good one actually after all. It's time for us to take a closer look at the speakers, and as you can already see they are top mounted, so it doesn't make any sense for me even trying to block them for the demo. The microphone is up here, so kind of a normal listening distance. Let's start with the demo. So my thoughts on the speakers, they are very loud, more than loud enough. I never really wished for more. The placement is nice, maybe not the most stereo immersive effect, but therefore it won't get blocked ever either. As for the sound itself, I would wish for a little bit more bass, especially due to the size of this device, and for a bit more dominant mids. But therefore the highs are very clear and the overall sound experience is still very nice, and in the end this is something I prefer. So more than loud enough and still a good sound, over or maybe not loud enough, but therefore maybe slightly better sound. In the end, I'm actually very pleased with these speakers. Yeah. We have pretty much reached the highlight here of this device, and that would be the performance. Intel i7 4720HQ quad-core CPU, 16GB of RAM, RTE Radeon R9 265X with 4GB of VRAM, and a 2TB spinning hard drive with 4500 rotations per minute. The hard drive itself maybe isn't the fastest one, but for what it is quite good, and you can simply replace it with an SSD if you want something faster. But the performance itself is absolutely spot on. So just let's take a closer look here. Of course the browser is perfectly smooth. We have a quad-core CPU here after all, there is no denying in that. If you check, for example, here on Modern UI, of course it is super smooth, and I don't really think it makes even sense to show this because of course the performance is better. Just real quick a PDF, you can't make this device trip. As you can see, no matter how fast I skip through, it is always there. So in terms of performance, there is no denying this device is spot on. For video editing, it was absolutely great. Rendering times were fast. The whole video editing process was very fast. 16GB of RAM made multitasking very easy. This is a very capable workstation machine. As for gaming, I can't tell you really that much because I'm not just into gaming so much, and I also can't show you any benchmarks because I'm just not into benchmarks. But from what I saw, the RT Radeon and the CPU together should be quite good enough for a 1080p experience for at least medium or even higher settings. So this leads me to one point: the performance is spot on, no flaws at all. Next things in line to talk about would be battery life, heat and noise. And as for the charging times, after 1 hour you are already at 80% of charge, and after 1 hour and 50 you are done, 100%. It is maybe only a 48 watt-hours battery, but still everything under 2 hours is absolutely fine. As for the battery life itself, I was able to get about 3 hours out of use with light to moderate use. In heavy use, I think I would be able to kill it in maybe 1.5. But still, I think this is more of a stationary device and you will be able to charge it all the time. So I wouldn't really worry too much about the battery life. I don't think you will take this out as your mobile workstation anyways. As for the heat, no problems here at all because the fans. The fans are one thing that maybe aren't the quietest one because the device will be audible pretty much all the time, not really loud. You will also be able to hear the hard drive a little bit spinning, but that was something I didn't really care about because I didn't notice it in normal use. The fans were on most of the times, not really loud, but still they were on. As for high performance use though, they can get quite loud. The good thing is they aren't whiny or anything, they are pretty subtle, loud though, all the time. But for me this is also the thing, once I am in high performance mode all the time, so the fans are on all the time, I'm mostly doing video editing or something like that anyways, maybe if you game as well, and then I'm pretty sure you will use headphones anyways. And if I use headphones, then the loudness wasn't an issue anymore because I didn't hear anything once we have sealed headphones on. So if you are in high performance mode and use headphones, I wouldn't worry about the performance. If you use it without headphones, then it could be maybe a little bit annoying, but in normal use with lighter tasks, the fan wasn't really too much disturbing. Of course, I would wish for a quieter device, but after all, this is a high performance device with 17 inches and there has to be cooled a lot. So keep that in mind, it just can't be done without any noise. Anyways, just as for the performance real quick, everything was stable. There is a lot of bloat pre-installed, but since we have Windows you can uninstall pretty much all of it anyways, so nothing here to bother. The system itself was very stable, I didn't have any issues whatsoever, and one good thing there is to be mentioned here is the touchpad driver, because very customizable with a lot of multitasking gestures and multi-touch gestures, so this is very nice and I'm completely pleased with that. Let's get to the end of this all, and if you haven't seen the in-depth part, quick recap as always. The build quality itself maybe isn't the best just because of the lid, otherwise it was completely solid. The keyboard is very well done once you get past the slippery feel. The touchpad is very great, especially due to the customizability in terms of software. Otherwise there are a lot of ports available, logically placed, all good here. Like I said, it's just the lid here that isn't the best one. Otherwise the display, no IPS, that's a little bit of a bummer, but since there isn't really a lot of choice with IPS displays in this size, it is quite okay because the overall qualities of the display were still very nice. The sound, absolutely convincing, very loud, maybe not the richest sound after all, but still overall good. As for the performance, of course, as I said it already, the highlight here of this device, you have plenty of power and this is a very future-proof device. I shouldn't expect any issues here at all for the next few years, so this is built to last for a while. As for battery life, heat and noise, all of this maybe not the most convincing one, not the most impressive one, but still okay. I wouldn't care about the battery life since it will be stationary anyways and you can charge it all the time. Heat was no issue at all. And the only thing that has to be mentioned as a slightly negative thing would be the noise. I would wish for it to be at least in idle mode a little bit quieter, but still that's okay. Software is completely fine, and as I said, the touchpad customizabilities are great. So in overall, this leads me to one thing. I can't really recommend this device, but only because this is the only 17-inch I've ever tried. I have no comparisons at all. I can't really say if this is an exceptional well device or not. It is definitely no bad device. I can't say anything, but since I just lack of comparisons, I can't tell you anything else that I didn't tell you. You know all the good stuff, you know all the bad stuff, so it's up for you to decide now. Because if I would have used more devices, I would have just been able to tell you more, but as it is right now, that's all I can tell you. Okay, this was my review of the Toshiba P70-B-10T. I hope you liked it. Please rate, comment and subscribe. Until next time, bye. I'll be back.